Beginners. All right, good morning. Hi, everyone. It's so nice to see you all chatty. Good. You're gonna need it today. Oh. Well, I am filling in for Amber this morning. We're gonna do adaptations for beginners. So this is all really thinking about if you have a friend who says, oh, can you come teach yoga to my book club? And none of them have done yoga before, or anything of the sort, which is, in my experience, has been frequent, not book clubs, but it's just like you get a lot of people who haven't done yoga before. And I think that's super, super cool. And we want people to have a great first experience into yoga because we want them to do it again, even if it's not with you. That it's like not an experience that scars them or leaves them feeling horrible about themselves, right? Like we want it to be something that's fun, that's educational, a place where they feel safe to ask questions. So I'm so excited about this. I honestly have to bite my tongue in every other class with teacher training to not talk about beginners. So today we actually get to do it. So yeah, we'll start with a little check-in. We'll just kind of go over some ideas. And then I'm going to put you into breakout groups and have you work through. Hi. Unlocked, please. Yeah, because we're missing quite a few. Thank you.
I think that the ad running late.
Okay. Okay, great. I'm going to put you near the end of this in the second hour. I'm going to put you into breakout groups and give you a little snippet of the Cambio series. I know you all are not all the way through it yet, but you're going to look in the manual at the poses that you have and just kind of brainstorm, okay, how would we change this for beginners? Would we change anything? And then I'll have you come back and share. So this 2 hours is going to go by real quick. And then you get a little break before you have anatomy with Amy this afternoon. So hi, Caleb. Caleb is online, observing me and you do the things as he's learning to teach this. But let's get started with a check-in. So I would love to hear, how are you? How's teacher training going? I am 99% sure I have all of your names, but would you mind saying them one last time for me? Maybe the second to last time for me. Do you remember what it was like being a beginner in yoga or something else? How did it feel? Did you feel welcome? Did you have any aha moments from that? Any lessons that you kind of want to take with you? So, who wants to start? Yeah, awesome. I'm gonna give you this so Caleb can hear you. Oh, sorry.
Hi, Caleb. I saw you this morning. I was watching the yoga history videos and I saw you there 4 years ago.
What, 4 years ago?
Yeah, I think so. Was it your first 200 4 years ago?
That was actually after we graduated. I'd already been teaching, but that's fun.
Yeah. Okay, I'm Hannah. Hi. It's going well. I mean, I just feel like I'm going, right? And then my weekends are like yoga. Like I came back from the class yesterday and I hiked with my dog for like an hour and a half. And then after that, I was like, okay, videos, anatomy, yoga history. I was like, check, check, check. But then I practiced with my husband. That was great because now that we're going to talk about beginners, like there were things he didn't know. Like he's a really like beginner. So I was like, can you just tell me the cues? I'm like, I have to read them again because he didn't know like the pose, like he didn't know many of them. So that's great. And then I recorded myself and I don't like my voice. I don't know anybody else, but I was like, oh my God, I need to speak slow. I eat words and consonants and letters. And I was just like judging myself. But then I listened to it. So that's a win. Um, what else are we supposed to say? I think that's it, right? Yeah. Okay.
Oh, but yeah, do you remember like using a beginner or anything?
Yes. Uh, kind of. I mean, I still feel like a beginner. So I always look to the side, like some poses, and like I just don't know. And but um something that I've noticed like at Cambio is how welcoming, it's like giving permission to be new. Like, it just opens the space for, non-judgmental and, it's not like, I mean, I still see some people doing like those poses and I'm just like, wow, that's fascinating. But then I go back and I'm like, okay, I'm okay where I am. So I know. Laura. Oh,
Hey, Kelly, Caleb. Hi, Laura. Yesterday, I went and did a 4-mile walk after being here. It was beautiful outside and, as far as, how it's going, I think it's going really well. I work at it every day, the sequences especially. And, I've done the, history and traditions, and last night I did the, Bay, Uvas? Bayous. I did that with Amber online, so I did that too. And as far as I guess the training itself, I feel everybody's support. I mean, it's like, hey, do you want to go out and go to a park and start, practicing the sequences, or just having little texts on the phone, and like this morning Aaron said, oh, it's foggy outside, and it was really heavy. So but yeah, I just feel a sense of calm, belonging, and support, which I've needed for a while. So, but yeah, that's it.
All right, good morning. Bethia, hey Caleb. Um, so we're just talking about our experience a little bit.
Beginners today, so do you have any thoughts on that? Any feelings in your heart from when you were a beginner, if you still are?
Okay.
Anything that sticks out to you?
Yeah. Well, I was running late, so I'm a little frazzled. But overall, like I love our little group. Like I can look at every single one of you and just be like, y'all are cool. Like, yeah, easy to talk to, and again, I do feel supported as well, and just that I can throw out, hey, want to go to the park, and people will come. So it's nice. Yeah. And I feel like we're all getting there, which is cool too. Like I know it's a lot and I still feel a little behind on everything, but I decided to reorganize how I'm writing out my script. And so again, I'm starting it over. So I feel like I'm getting the first parts down really good. Like I need to skip them and just go to what we're doing now. But sometimes I feel like a beginner still because I have done yoga off and on. Like I haven't been able to stay completely 100% consistent my whole life, which I don't think anyone has. Like we all have those times. But when I was a beginner, I remember having to look around the room a lot and it was actually through Cambio. Like the first time I thought about being a teacher was through Cambio. So it's probably about 15 years ago. Like I think they must have just opened, or 14 years ago. But yeah, I just remember looking around a lot and feeling a little out of place, but then also kind of comforted being here. So yeah. Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah.
Hey, Caleb. Hi, I'm Hope. So I wrote notes and then I put the computer on the notes. So I feel pretty comfortable. I'm working on the memorizing piece is my challenge, and having time. And I'm gonna be quite honest, I did nothing when I went home. I didn't pick up any of the books. I was gonna go to my kid's house and do like a little family yoga, and then we sat down and watched a movie, and the kids were crazy, and we just did that. And made chili. So I didn't do, but this morning I woke up early and I rode my bike, and then I studied a little bit, and I'm the same, like I'm starting at the top and I need to start in a different place because I have the integration and Sun A pretty solid, but the rest of it I'm lost. So I'm just, working on that. When I started yoga, probably about 12-ish or more years ago, I felt a little intimidated. So the beginner thing I think will be a good, this beginner class stuff will be good. I realized after I started taking yoga that people weren't looking at you like judging. They were looking at you because maybe you knew a pose that they didn't, or something like that. Because if I'm in class and I get like sidetracked by somebody that's doing something fancy, then I lose my balance. And then, you really have to focus. And I think that that's one of the things that, after taking yoga for a few years, I realized that a lot of times when I lose my balance, I'm like, looking at someone else going, wow, that's really cool. So I try to just like look at myself in the mirror or focus on something else and not look at anyone else unless I need help like figuring out what the pose is. So, and just to kind of reiterate what everyone else has said so far, like this Cambio is a place where I feel like it's safe. It's like a safe place, and you always feel welcome no matter what skill level you are. So, yeah.
Morning, Caleb. I'm Alexis, and I am really enjoying yoga teacher training. I feel I think similar to everybody else, I feel a good sense of community from everybody. Everybody's really easy to talk to, and it's just been good. And I've been feeling good about the material. I am a bit of a procrastinator, so I have been like trying to be more active with going through the videos and watching them. And so I've started doing that yesterday more so. I did this whole week, I've been trying to catch up. But yeah, I've been really, really enjoying it. Yesterday I also took a nice long walk with my dog after we got out of class. And I went through the whole series up through Crescent, and with like the cues and everything. And I just talked through it on the walk as I do. And I'm getting there. We'll be fine. And then I was like, I remember being a beginner, but I really started my yoga journey with YouTube videos. Like I just would look up like an hour class and I would do it every morning. So I didn't have it was like I had kind of more grace to fail because nobody else was around. And that's kind of how I am in general. I like to figure things out before being around other people and showing the things that I can do, or I don't know. So I'm just a bit of a perfectionist. So when I started taking classes, at first it was kind of intimidating because you see everybody else at different levels. But what I really like about the yoga community is that there really isn't much judgment. Like you can go in and you can do what you need to do for your body without feeling judged. And I think that's really beautiful. Like I really, really like that about the community. So when I went in, I realized I'm not perfect at this. Um, but now I take classes all the time and I don't feel stressed about going in there and it's good. Yeah, that's my experience as a beginner.
Hey, Trevor, let's see, what was the first question? Oh, just how we're doing. I, I'm probably a little bit behind, but I'm really enjoying, the learning, and I think it is, starting to click. So, I started here at Cambio about 5 months ago during yoga, and the first class was definitely pure chaos, but I got through that trying to be as least disruptive as possible. But yeah, everyone was very understanding, and within a couple classes, just tips and pointers and coaching. I feel like the teachers really went out of their way to do that. So I was thankful for that.
What's up? Um, Greg K. Let's see. I'm doing all right today. I'm really tired, but I love this weather, so I'm enjoying it. Um, it's coffee weather. Uh, my experience as a beginner. So my first yoga class, I got a Groupon and went with my sisters to some place up in Cherry Creek, and they were doing headstands and a bunch of crazy stuff like right off the bat. So I've never been able to reach that bar. But since then it's been just a lot of vinyasa stuff. Same poses and everything. Which has been good because it's the repetition and it's familiar and everything. But lately I've been trying to try new classes like the yin yoga or power vinyasa, and those are less familiar, and I'm going back to that. Just looking around, seeing what everyone else is doing, and I think I feel comfortable doing that because it's my practice, it's my show, and I could just sit there in Shavasana if I really feel like it. So um, it's welcoming. Other than this, I've really just done like power core or core power. And this is like the first like yoga studio that's like dedicated to community. The classes, I feel like I'm back in college, just thinking it's fine that I am behind. I'll catch up like, right before the final. Um, and but I am getting through like the necessary material, and I am learning a lot. So I'm getting a lot out of this and I'm enjoying it. Uh yeah, well, see you.
Thank you. Good morning. Erin. Sorry, I thought I dropped something. So beginners, my very first yoga class, I will never, ever, ever forget it. I got a flat tire. It was raining. It was my boyfriend's mother who was teaching the class. It was a power flow, and she's a Jivamukti instructor. So basically, like, terrifying. And I showed up and I was the last person to show up, and there was like one spot in the middle, in the center, in the front, and I was just like, this is great, everything is great. I made it through it. I sweat a lot more than I thought I was going to, but it didn't like turn me off of it. But I've I think like as a beginner, like first starting yoga and even continuing to now, my biggest thing and my biggest struggle has always been like competitiveness and ego and needing to like drop that at the door with my shoes, because like especially during that first class, I was like, I got something to prove. Like, I'm late. This is my boyfriend's mom. Like, and I remember looking over people doing like chaturangas, and I'm just like, I'm gonna smash my face on the ground. So that has always been something for me. But I feel like as I've grown in my yoga journey, like I've been able to like kind of check my ego and competitiveness. And obviously like every once in a while it like rears its head and I'm like, oh, I suck, or oh wow, that person's really good. Or if I like lose my balance, I'm really embarrassed. But I feel like I'm in a place now where I like the thought comes and I'm just like, all right, moving on. And I don't allow it to ruin my practice. But I also feel like in reference to yoga specifically that I will always feel like a beginner, and I like that and I want to stay in that mentality because like I have a yoga book club, and I remember I said like in one of our meetings that once I feel like once you think that you're an expert in yoga, you're completely wrong. Like I think like if you think you're an expert, you need to reevaluate, because like I don't think anybody is an expert in yoga. Like, and I think if you think you are, that you need to check yourself. um, so that's my beginner spiel about myself. And then as far as the class is concerned, I am wildly behind, but like I'm not gonna say it's entirely my fault because I showed up hella late. But I feel really comfortable, and I feel like everyone else has said, like this is such a good group, and like it feels really supportive and like welcoming, and I'm really grateful to be here. Because it's just so nice to be with such a kind and like I don't know, real group of people. So I've really appreciated that. I know that I have kind of like Greg was saying, I feel like I'm in school, like college again, where I'm like, oh, I'll get to it. And last night I didn't do anything yoga related after I got home. It was kind of like get home. Maybe I took a nap. I don't even know. And then we went to the zoo and did Boo at the Zoo, which was so much fun. But yeah, just trying to figure out how to catch up, but not feeling like not that I don't need to, but like I'm not feeling like aggressive pressure from the group to be like, oh, she doesn't know what the fuck she's doing. Like, so yeah, that's where I'm at. Yes, Erin. Here you go.
Hey guys, I'm Ben. And I'm doing pretty good. Last night some fog rolled in and it was really surreal. I woke up in the middle of the night, we used the restroom and peeked out the window and I'm like, good Lord. And it was spooky and creepy, no sound. And I opened up all the windows and it's like I was in a scary movie. My partner was asleep and I was like, everybody's dead.
Why did you open up the windows?
Because I enjoyed it immensely.
Okay.
I really did. I really did. Well, yesterday I said I can actually have so good of a time at a horrible movie. So, it's kind of like that, but it was really peaceful. But that's where my mind went. And so that was cool. And I kind of woke up with, I'm not sure if it's like you go on Shavasana and come out and you're like, ah. And my morning wasn't too bad. I was running around, but still pretty calm, made it here. And teacher training has been going pretty good. I guess maybe even a little better than I expected as far as what I'm kind of understanding of the unfolding of kind of what we're doing. I remember when I was a beginner, like Alexis, I did videos, and I'm just like kind of like a nature person in general. So I would always, when I get off work, at the time I worked Woodland Park, so I would go to Red Rocks or somewhere and just walk around and things like that. I would get up in the morning to look at the sunrise and do a little flow, things like that. And I really liked it and started going to classes couple and a half years ago. And yeah, it was something where all throughout my children's, I have 2 adult children. So I would take them to school every day down Austin Bluffs going, so I would pass this all the time. I would see Cambio sign, and it wasn't until like I said, a couple and a half years ago, I attended class and I was like, oh, okay. It did supplement, what I had already been doing. But as far as I really do feel like a beginner, honestly, because even though I go to classes and do the poses, what I'm learning is like with community, and things that are together, is a real good, is just real good, like impactful, and the kind of thing that I would want to like align my energy up with. And it just kind of like fit in place. And so that's it.
Hi, Caleb. I'm Karen. And again, just kind of what everyone else is saying. I feel like this is like a little family, and I really enjoy it. It's nice to be able to know that, we may bump into each other in the future and, just have a familiar face and a kind face and kind of a level of like a little bond. At least that's how I feel. I still feel that way. Sorry. Like maybe that's a little creepy, but but I too always I feel like a beginner, and I took a class on Friday and I missed the extended side angle after warrior before reverse warrior. And it happened to be when we were standing on the side where everyone was behind me. And so I do tend to still look for other people as cues, but so I missed a step and I went straight into reverse warrior, and I could just feel my cheeks turning red, and it was incredibly embarrassing. But again, it's just that learning to forgive and getting comfortable in my own skin. And so as far as the program's concerned, and I shared this with my mentor and my group, like I just have all these words swirling in my mind, like flexion and Tadasana, and and some of them creep in that I don't even know what it means, like I don't recollect what it means, and I know I trust that it's all going to come together. But yeah, it's still a bit overwhelming, but still very thrilling and exciting. And I love being here. And as far as beginners are concerned, I feel lucky and blessed that we have our community, that we have attended enough yoga sessions and practices to know that we're not being judged, to know that people are accepting, that it's okay to look at another person or to be looked at. But as we think about beginners today, what I want to learn and how I can portray that is, how do you make a beginner feel that and know that right off the bat? Like when they go to a session, how can we make them feel comfortable and welcomed, and that it's okay to be here and to mess up and skip a pose. Yeah.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. Hey, Caleb. I'm Rachel. I'm feeling pretty good today. I actually took the 7:30 class and it was just me and the teacher. So a little one-on-one sesh. But I'm really enjoying kind of thinking of the practices differently throughout this experience. Honestly, it's what I look forward to throughout my week of coming to these sessions. Kind of hit on what everyone else has said. I feel very supported. I'm happy that we are able to build this community. And also, as it's starting to kind of creep into my daily thoughts, or, is this pretty yogic of me? For some of my maybe inner thoughts, especially after I talked to my mom. I talked to her yesterday. I was like, oh, the East Coast is just coming in a little bit of just brunt. But anyway, I digress. So kind of similar to Aaron, as well as in the beginner mindset, I've been practicing yoga on and off. I started, they were offering classes at the gym in high school and then same thing at the gym in college. But there's been a lot of growth and unlearning in that aspect from being a past college athlete and all of these other kind of like structured things, where it's been an opportunity of, I don't have to show up perfectly every day. Like I can take what is offered for me, and I don't have to just uphold this level just because sometimes. And like, it's nice to take that break. It's nice to give myself that grace. And that's been a learning process for sure in yoga. And similar to what Karen said, I would like to learn how to really offer that to others and to beginners, because I know my family wants to have a yoga class for Thanksgiving this year. And none of them have practiced or anything like that. So I'm looking forward to it though, but very grateful to be here. Very grateful to meet all of you, and just excited to see where else this journey takes us.
What did you play in college?
I was on the rowing team for Rutgers.
I rode in college too.
Oh, look at that. And I was an ROTC before that. Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. So yeah, I was the shortest girl on the rowing team, since it's a tall girl sport. Yeah.
Hey, Caleb. I'm Gabby. I am really enjoying our group and learning all the things. I feel like I'm really starting to dive into all the aspects. It's a little overwhelming, but I knew it was going to be. And I'm enjoying the challenge and finding it super enriching on so many levels, like I knew that it would. Interpersonally and personally, a lot of like growth is possible for me, not just through the sequencing and learning how to teach, but also yogic philosophy that is applicable to like personal life. And I'm finding that I've been a beginner in a lot of things in life, and this is just another way that I'm a beginner in learning how to teach yoga and learning about yoga and implementing it in my life, and coming at it with, like others have said, grace, patience, accepting the fact that there will be stumbles, there will be doubts and imperfections, moments of imperfection, and that's okay. But knowing that there is support and people that know more that I can turn to. And yeah, I look forward to being able to provide that sense of guidance and support to other people in practice, and share that grace with them, and acceptance on their journey.
Hi. I only slept for like 2 hours last night and I went to the wrong location this morning. So I'm a little discombobulated, a little bit of bringing some chaos energy in here, but I did bring hot chocolate and apple cider. So that's what's in this bag. Oh, I did. It's in here. Hi, Caleb. So far the training's going good. Like everybody else, I feel a little overwhelmed, but not in a bad way. I don't know the other.
They were talking about beginners.
Mhm.
Do you still feel like a beginner? If not, do you remember when you did? And was there any good or bad experiences that stuck out to you?
I started doing yoga when I was in high school. They offer like Rachel said it, like there were you could take yoga as a gym credit. And so I took yoga as a gym credit because I thought it'd be easier. And I tried taking strength training as the gym credit and I hated it, respectfully. Listen, if you're into strength training, I envy you because it scared me. And I remember being very stressed, especially in high school, about what everybody else thought and what everybody else was doing. And especially in high school, being very concerned about, am I taking myself too seriously? Is everybody looking at me and being like, who does she think she is? This is a high school yoga class. And then I remember when I worked at the YMCA going to a class there, and I was the only 20-something. Everybody else was white-haired in their 70s and somehow still more flexible than me. And afterwards they were like, yeah, I have this joint issue and that joint issue. I'm like, Bertha, I just watched you fold yourself in half. What do you mean you have hip issues? You scare me. I fear you. And sometimes I feel like I'm still a beginner. But I kind of like feeling like that because I feel like I have room to grow and room to make mistakes. So I think I like just sitting in the beginner idea and leaving that room to just be like trying, maybe doing great, maybe not, but trying.
Thank you. Caleb, would you like to do a check-in today?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a throat thing. Otherwise I'd be there in person. It's so good to hear your stories. Thank you. I'll try and keep this brief. I'm enjoying just being around and watching your journey. Working with beginners is life-giving, and just watching people, even within the studio setting, we get to see people grow in such profound ways and simple ways, really, too. From just moving into, beginner to an in-betweener, or testing their boundaries. And so it's a really humbling and beautiful thing to watch people do something that challenges them and makes them feel a little scared. And yeah, I think I'm excited for you all to be able to watch that because it is beautiful. I remember being a beginner, and like some of you, I'm a recovering perfectionist. And so I didn't take classes in person until I felt like I knew what I was doing. And I learned that I didn't really know a thing at all. And it was exciting to also be able to learn from other people. So yeah, I think the moments that I've been thrust into a beginner mindset, sometimes against my will, have been some of the most interesting moments in my life. So yeah.
Sorry you're not feeling well.
Ooh. All right. Also I pressed buttons. Now I don't know what's gonna happen. Okay, there, you're still there. Good. All right. Well, thanks for sharing. Um, Mostly for Aaron's sake. My name is Erica. And I started, just as a reminder, I think I've told y'all already, but like I didn't do yoga before I started teacher training. And so it was kind of a blessing because I could just be like, well, I'm with the cool kids and apparently I'm allowed to be here. So, but I do try to consistently like take like beginners classes of like other, like I just took like a beginners dance class this week and like went to the batting cages, just like trying to like do things that make me feel like I don't know what I'm doing to remind myself how my beginner students feel. Teaching beginners is really like my heart project that it's just like I want to well, okay, I'll say this. When I came here for my info session for teacher training, I could not come alone. I had made a friend drive me and drag me up the stairs because I was like, I ain't going in there. And that's just kind of how I live my life. And so I understand that for a lot of people coming in or trying something new for the first time is going to take so incredibly much courage and bravery and that I really want to like cheerlead them in the process. And so yeah, that's what makes me most excited about it and passionate about it and very nitpicky about it. So bless you. All right. Yeah, and like even if you're like, oh, I'm never gonna teach beginners, you don't know. You don't know. You don't know anything. I was never going to teach public classes. Let me just say that right now. Yeah, you never know when I mean, you may even be teaching like a normal vinyasa class, and then the only 4 people who show up that day are brand new beginners. It's just like you don't really get much of a say in it sometimes. So, so today we're going to go over some big topic ideas, and then do those small breakout groups, like I said. And so I heard some of you mention like, oh, I've taught a family member or I'm going to teach family members. And it's like, yeah, they don't know anything. You can't get away with being like, inhale, warrior 2. And just trust that they're going to know where they're going, especially if they don't have anybody to look at. And it's interesting. You really have to pick and choose your battles, and by the way, this might be the portion of class where you might want to be taking notes. You're going to pick and choose your battles, because if you have to choose between having safe and healthy alignment in the lower body in Warrior 2, or fixing floppy arms and hands in Warrior 2, which one is most important? Alignment and safety in the lower body. Yeah, absolutely. Now, if we can get to this, sure. If we don't get to that, totally okay. Okay. Sorry, I got distracted. Say like with the breath. The breath is a very important part of yoga. Teaching Ujjayi to beginners, such a weird thing. They're like, I'm sorry, you want me to make noise while I breathe? I actively spend energy trying not to make noise while I breathe. And they can be very self-conscious. And so it's like you may teach it to them and they may get it once and then they may never breathe again. And that's also, it's like, we'll pick and choose, is that going to be your battle that day? You just can't choose all of the battles. And so I want that to be something that you are prepared for. Do you think you're going to give more cues or less cues to beginners? Raise your hand if you think you're going to give more cues to beginners. Okay. And less cues. Okay. A little bit of smooshing those two together. You are going to talk a whole lot more, and you're probably going to give less cues. So what that means is I love all the faces. You're probably going to give the same cues over and over and over again. And that's okay. That is not a bad thing, because if they leave class that day having learned one thing that is a huge win. Now they understand where their legs should be in Warrior 2. What a success. Now next time they come in, there is a higher chance they might remember it. But if we kind of oversaturate them with like, oh, you know, legs in Warrior 2, and then next round focusing on axial extension in the spine and through the arms, that they're not getting any of it, they're going to walk out remembering nothing. You're probably, yeah, going to repeat the same cues on the left side as the right side, because proprioception with our bodies, like people coming in who are new, who don't already have some sort of practice in their life that incorporates a lot of body awareness, you're going to be like, oh, do this with your right arm. They're going to be like, I have a right arm. Where is it? Oh, is that it right there? Like, you just don't know where your body is in space a lot of the time. So you're going to be repeating the same cues from side to side on different rounds. If you can get, yeah, I would say like 4 cues in them that day that you're just like, oh, can we focus on this same cue in different poses now too? Like, just kind of help them start, like, learning how to engage the core. My 8-year-old niece just learned how to like consciously like engage her core muscles this summer. So she was just walking around the house going, Yancy, touch my belly. Like, what is happening? But right, like it is like a muscle that you have to learn like how to do that. And so, yeah, if you can revisit certain ideas and different poses, help to like kind of link those neural pathways. And it's going to be very tempting to give more, but you're really going to want to first and foremost stick with those safety cues, very basic cues. You're just concerned about getting the basics of the shape safely. And then from there, honestly, I mean, like this is the most important thing to me, is having it be a fun, lighthearted environment where if we get any yoga done, that's awesome. That's a cherry on top. Like, let's celebrate the fact that you're here, and we're just gonna like play around for an hour with our bodies and do weird shapes that you probably haven't done since you were 4 years old. And just be okay with not being perfect and being okay with making mistakes. So as a beginner's teacher, I feel like that means that you really have to scoot your own anxiety to the side. You have to allow yourself to get really big and joyful and playful. And like if they sense any anxiety from you, they will be like, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake, because now neither of us know what we're doing. So make it really fun and welcoming. Introduce yourself as always. Give an overview of what the class is going to look like. So we'll get more into sequencing in a bit, but I usually, walk in and sit down, give the announcements as normal. I'm like, okay, so, today we're going to move the body. And if we're lucky, we might breathe a little bit while we do it. Let's just seat it here. Like, let's just find some gentle movement. So I might like lead them through some like side body stretches or seated twists. And then I'll teach them Ujjayi breath. And I'm going to break that down for you a little bit more here in just a second. And then I'll kind of put that all together though. And I'll be like, okay, so now as you inhale, draw your arms up overhead. So you exhale, float it back down to the ground. Inhale, blah, blah, blah. Exhale, blah, blah, blah. And then after, that's a short, like maybe like 4 movements. And I'll be like, awesome, great job. Like you did vinyasa. That's what this is. We are moving with the breath. And so that's what the rest of the class is going to look like. I'm going to keep telling you inhale and exhale about 1,001 times. You may breathe when I say that. You may not. That's okay. I'm going to give you, lots of breaks throughout class so you can ask questions. I love questions. And I'll tell them this too. Like if you have a question, somebody else in the room, it's probably me who's not making sense, and somebody else in the room has the same question. So please, like, you can be the team leader and like speak up for the group, because everybody feels, insecure about asking questions. And so when you can kind of put that different spin on it, that it's like, no, you're like, I expect that you will have questions, and you will get a gold star. No, I do wish I could make balloons fall from the ceiling though for them when they ask questions. And then the last thing I'll tell them too, in terms of what it's going to look like, is like, okay, the big difference between what just happened and what's about to happen is that I won't be sitting up here with you doing the yoga. Because if we were just seated, like, that's fine for me to like sit and do that and mirror them. But for the rest of class, you know, I'm going to walk around and be giving adjustments like normal. And so I'll tell them that. I'll be like, the big difference is that I'm not going to be sitting up here doing this with you. I'm going to be walking around to make sure that you are safe and in healthy alignment. I'll be giving hands-on adjustments, and I'll let you opt out in just a minute, but just so you know, if you don't know what that looks like, it might look like me placing my hand on your thigh or your shoulder and just kind of helping move things so that you feel, you know, where you're supposed to be engaging to help you stay safe and healthy in your alignment. But if you have questions at any time, please feel free to ask, or if I see any confused faces, I'll jump in and do it with you. And then I certainly will. I'll probably jump in anywhere from 3 to 7 times throughout class. And just when I'm like, inhale, crescent lunge, and nobody, and you know, I cue it and nobody knows, it's like, okay, pop up to the front of the room and mirror them, and pop into it. And you'll kind of get a feel too. A lot of times I'll do things on them, with them on the first side, and then be like, okay, I think they can do it on the second side. Oh, no, I was wrong. Let me pop back in there. And you'll just kind of get a feel for it as the class goes on. Tell them what to do if they need a break, and really destigmatize it. It can be very normal, and I heard this from some of you, to feel like you have to push through, that you have to, it's almost this like people pleasing aspect of like, well, people can see me and everybody else is doing it, so that means I have to do it too. And y'all heard when we did body positivity how much I like to take breaks, and so I will tell my students that, right? Like, you take a break whenever you want. And then again, kind of like let yourself be the scapegoat perhaps, and be like, I may forget to give you a break. And if you want to take one, you can, even if it's like 30 seconds later and they're like, why haven't you given me a break? And tell them like, you know, and you can kind of, again, like just how you're picking and choosing your battles, pick and choose, like, because you could spend 20 minutes at the top of class talking about all this stuff, and you need to get this all out in the course of about 2 minutes. So sometimes I do take time to say that, you know, part of yoga for me is like that empowered no, and being able to set and respect boundaries for yourself. And so if you can learn how to use a prop in class when nobody else is using it, take a break in class when nobody else is taking a break, maybe even challenge them. Can each one of you, at least once today, find a time to come take a break, lay down, grab water, catch a breather when nobody else is, and see how that makes you feel? You know, can you let it give you a little bit confidence boost that you're going against the grain? And then maybe see in the rest of your day, can you take that confidence with you and be like, oh, everybody else is, you know, I'm not going to fall for that peer pressure. I'm going to do what's best for me, you know, and kind of like let that be a little like challenge to them. I find that works well sometimes. Normalize the learning process. If you have like brand new people, like, hey, this is like learning a new language. It's going to take several weeks before some of the words I say even start to make sense. And I just really want you to know that up front, that like a lot that's going to happen in here today may feel like it's going over your head, and that's totally normal. Going back to the Ujjayi breath before I forget. So I will break it down for them a little bit more than we do in a typical vinyasa, how you've learned, you know, to basically just say, oh, turn on your Ujjayi breath, breathe in and out through the nose with the soft constriction in the back of your throat. Because they're going to be like, okay, don't know what that means, so I guess none of us are doing that. So before I put them in child's pose while we're still seated, I'll explain it just like I did, but then I'll add on, it's the same muscles that you use to fog up a mirror. So let's actually, and you can all do this with me if you want right now, take a hand out in front of your face and pretend like it's a little compact mirror and take a breath in. And as you exhale, fog up the mirror. Go. Awesome. I heard that. Did you all feel that on your hand? Yeah, nice and warm, huh? Let's do that again as you breathe in and exhale, fog out the mirror. Good, awesome. Breath in. This time, seal the lips, fog up the mirror through the nose. Yeah, do you still feel those same muscles turn on in the throat? Now keep the lips sealed. Inhale through the nose. Exhale, fog up the mirror through the nose. And then when you hear somebody get it, be like, awesome, great, Jenny, I hear, yeah, that's it. That way it's also like, oh, okay, that's the sound we're going for. I'll definitely pull out the Darth Vader. It sounds like Darth Vader a lot because that's a good one. I think that really helps people understand it. Yeah, Ashlyn.
How do they balance, and maybe this is just me, because I'm one of those people who when the teacher is like, good job, like great posture, I'm like, I like, I start glowing.
Yeah.
How do we balance that with beginners, like especially like you said, with being like, great job, Jenny, you got it. How do we
Yeah.
balance praise for everybody?
Yeah, how do we balance praise for everybody? I definitely try to keep it very focused on the adjustments that they make so that it's a signal of like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So when I talk about lengthening the tailbone out away from you in chair pose, when I see Jenny make that adjustment, I'll be like, that's it, Jenny. I'll try really, really hard to say everybody's name during class. I will write them down so that even if I forget who's who, I'm just like, great job, Bill. I'm like, I don't know where Bill is or what you're doing, but if possible, I try to keep it like very focused into adjustments and like their own adjustments based off of like the verbal cues I'm giving. Or when we come on down to a break, like look at everybody and be like, y'all are doing so good. And just like take a moment to kind of like make eye contact with everybody, acknowledge everybody. Yeah, good question. There are going to be the people sometimes in beginners classes who have been doing yoga, and they still may feel just as insecure as everybody else, but everybody else in the room is like, that person knows what they're doing. And so to use them as an example, so like when we get to like adjustments, we're still going to give adjustments in beginners. They're going to look different. They're going to be less juicy, I think, most of the time. Sometimes I will, because I'll tell them up front, you can opt out of adjustments. This is what it looks like. Or sometimes it might be a shoulder rub because that feels good. And that is when I try to give everybody in class. I try to give everybody in class a little shoulder adjustment or shoulder rub at some time, just to be like, adjustments are not a bad thing. I'll aim to give 2 adjustments during class. So one of those being some sort of feel good, a shoulder rub or like a shavasana. And then one of those being, okay, is there something that I can help out with in alignment? But it's, when I say it's not as juicy, some of these adjustments can be a little bit more intimate in terms of, you're moving with the breath and you're staying with them longer and you're really connecting. And there can absolutely be times in beginners where that's appropriate. But if it's somebody who's brand new, you are there to destigmatize it and to get them in the mindset that receiving an adjustment is not a bad thing. I can learn from it. It doesn't mean that I've done anything wrong. And so going back to Jenny, if Jenny looks like she really knows what she's doing, I will make sure to give her an adjustment early on in class in a pose where everybody else can see that I'm adjusting her. That right away, everybody knows that Jenny knows what she's doing. And Jenny got an adjustment too. Okay, so so it doesn't mean that that's like a bad thing and it's there to like fix things, That being said, I did mention, Shavasana adjustment. Okay, this is my beginner story. I remember, I have a couple actually. One of my first classes, my very, very first class here, actually, I took an 1.5 hour long restorative workshop, which basically means you're laying on the floor in adult nap time for an 1.5 hours. And I was like, I'm really good at this. So my second class, I was like, well, I'm so good at this, I should definitely do a power class. So my second class was a power class. And I just remember being an extended side angle, just panting. And Austin came over to me and he said, you know, you're allowed to take breaks, right? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm fine. I'm totally fine. But in my first class in Shavasana, I just remember laying there and the thoughts racing through my head. Is everybody else still here? How long have we been here? Is the teacher still here? Are my eyes supposed to be closed? If I open my eyes, is everybody going to be gone? Did the teacher leave and lock me in the building? What do I do? Am I going to have to call 911? Like, how am I going to get out of this building? Like, those were the thoughts in my mind in Shavasana. So let your beginner students know we're going to be here for about 2 to 3 minutes. There's nothing that you need to do right now. You don't need to breathe a certain way or focus on anything in particular. I will let you know when it's time. I think that sentence is so important. I've told this story a lot and I've had several people be like, yep, I thought the same thing. And 2 to 3 minutes to a beginner for Shavasana is going to feel like an eternity. They don't know how to rest. Who knows how to do that? And then if you are wanting to give Shavasana adjustments during a beginner's class, I really like to ask for another option because it's like they opted in an hour ago almost. A lot has happened since then, and they may not think that it applies during Shavasana, and they're not going to know what that looks like. So if you're going to offer adjustments during Shavasana, you could do something like, you know, you're getting them settled and be like, so by the way, I might come around with a little massage in Shavasana. I'll probably just like rub your shoulders, neck, and head a little bit. If you don't want to be touched during Shavasana, you can rest a hand on your belly or just some sort of signal that they can give to you. Because it is just kind of different than the rest of them. We already talked about how I would, you'll probably want to demo. You're probably going to need to, whether you want to or not. You're going to need to demo a bit more than you're used to. Really check yourself on your own alignment. Yes, that it's safe and healthy, and you're going to do asana cleanup in about 6 weeks or so. To really be looking at your own alignment, and especially making sure in poses that you're more likely to demonstrate that you're role modeling good health, but be also not going to put yourself in a position where you're accidentally going to hurt yourself during a yoga class. But you also want to notice, are you taking like the most extreme version of the pose when you're demoing to beginners, right? Because how do you think that would make them feel? Intimidated, yeah. So it's like my warrior 2 in a beginner's class. My stance is shorter. I'm not as much in my front lunge. And like that's okay. That's really great. Like we want to be setting as much as I don't want them to base it off of my body, and even if I tell them that, they're still going to compare themselves, right? And so making sure that it's almost a body neutral or body positive experience for them. And if you're taking modifications, if you are demonstrating the half series and you're doing high plank from your knees, I think that's a really great thing to do. In fact, I have all of my beginners do high plank from their knees. But I will tell them that. I'll be like, you can do high plank from your toes. I'm not going to. I'm going to do it from my knees. How is that going to make them feel? What's that? comfortable. Yeah, like maybe they can do it too. Yeah, like, oh, even my teacher is doing this from their knees. Yeah, yeah.
So when we demo this, the half series, like option one would be the knees, right? Like it will be plank, belly to the mat, baby cobra, but like everything is in the knees. And the second one is like the full chaturanga, so they get to mirror it too, like what does that look like?
Yeah, what are your thoughts? Yes or no, I'll have you raise your hands again. Do you think you would show chaturanga and up dog to beginners? Yes? Couple people? So a couple, lots of this, yeah. No's? Just as confused and ambiguous? Yeah, yeah. Most times I don't, if it's brand new people. I have a little issue in my beginners class where some of them have been coming for 18 months. And if it's only them in class, I will be like, all right, y'all ready to learn this? If it's them in class and then 3 other people who are brand new to yoga, not gonna bring it up, right? So depending on, you know, who your demographic is. Okay, so here's another one. Okay, let me finish one thought at a time and then I see your hand. Who your demographic is. Do they need, I really, really try to ever refrain, and I'm only saying this in teacher training, I would never say this to students. I try not to ever put chaturanga to up dog as more challenging because I don't want it to be hierarchical. I talk about heart opening versus back strengthening. However, it is more challenging. So if they seem like a group that needs some sort of physical challenge in that way, maybe they're really strong but really inflexible, maybe that's actually going to feel like a win for them. Again, I would never use that language with them, but just stuff you can kind of be thinking about in the background. Karen.
Is there, when you're teaching beginners, is there a way to do, is it okay, I guess, to do like an abbreviated version of the series? And is it okay to eliminate the half series altogether?
Absolutely.
Because that
Yes.
was even confusing.
Oh my
for
gosh.
me initially, like half series.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
Yes, absolutely. And we're going to talk about modification to the sequence in just a well, I think right now, let me just make sure. Yeah, it looks like we've gotten through everything. So let's dive into the sequence. And before we do, I want to ask too, since we're just taking votes, what about crow pose? Including it or not? Raise your hand for including it. No one. All right. I think it's another one that it could depend. It depends on your demographic. So if you get into the group who has crow pose, think about maybe certain groups of people that you would not include it for and certain groups of people that you would include it for. Caleb, I'm going to try to move you in here and not spill my tea.
Erica,
Yeah.
I'm taking classes, vinyasa classes where the teacher, we do crow pose on the mat. Like,
Oh yeah, yeah.
And
love it.
I struggle with that pose a lot. Like I haven't practiced it enough to like fail it
Mhm.
or even get to come close to it.
Mhm.
I think it's great.
I love that. Absolutely. I think that's a wonderful idea. Taking crow pose on the
Yeah,
back.
very cool.
Yeah, very, very accessible. All right. So when I put you into breakup groups, I really should have planned that up beforehand. Oopsie. I'm gonna have you look at these different categories of things to consider for your section. So you might have, for example, Sun A. And I'm gonna give you a list of things that when you get with your partners looking at Sun A, okay. What would we do for the length? Will we keep everything the same length of time that it's prescribed in the Cambio manual? Will we do more breaths in it, or less breaths in it? Might we do more rounds of something or less rounds of something? Our next category to look at is modifications. What poses would you immediately modify and how? So when I say immediately modify, it may be, I'm not even gonna offer crescent lunge with the back knee lifted. We're automatically doing crescent moon with the, which is basically the same pose, but with the back knee down. Okay, next category is, uh-oh, my pen is failing. What will you cut? Are there any poses that you will completely be like, nah, nope, not today? It may not be physically appropriate, or it may also be for time's sake. I will tell you, with all of you doing these individually, if we put this whole series together afterwards, I almost guarantee you that you would not have enough time to get through it. You will be shocked at how much you're in like a real life application that you would have to cut out of a class. Yeah, do you need all the half series in there? Which ones would you cut in your portion? And consider, are you gonna get similar movement somewhere else in the sequence? Bye-bye. So for instance, extended side angle and triangle, a little bit of a similar stuff going on. So if you had Sun B and you were like, would we want to keep this in here? Or would we want to prioritize that in triangle? Like, which one do we think is best, and let that inform if you would cut it in your portion or not. And lastly, things that you could swap. So half pigeon, incredibly complex pose to teach to beginners. It happens like twice a year where I'm like, we have the time and the mental capacity to do this today. But something easy to swap out for it could be supine figure 4. That's pretty easy to get into comparatively. All right, let me do real quick. I knew I was forgetting something all morning. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. Thank you. 13, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no. Okay, it's fine. You're fine. Don't worry about it, Erica. Take a breath. Okay. So I'm just gonna kind of, math is so hard, and now on the spot I'm like, oh God, don't look at me. 4 groups, yeah. Yeah, let's. Okay, thank you so much. 3 groups of 3, no, thank you so much. Okay, no, that works. Okay, so I'm gonna have you count off 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Okay, so ones, 4 groups. Ones, you're going to do integration in Sun A. So write that down. Thank you so much. Teamwork. Group 2, you're gonna have Sun B and core. Group 3, you're going to have crescent and Utkatasana. And group 4, you're going to have triangle and spine, hips, and surrender. I got so nervous. It was so funny. No, I don't have to tell that story. We're short on time. Okay. I wanted to just spend more time with you all. You're so much fun. You're gonna go into your breakout groups and we'll start with about 15 minutes and I'll check in on you and see how you're doing. So you're gonna go through your sections, consider these 4 things on how you would treat your section. And then be prepared to come back and have a presenter share with the rest of the group your considerations. Sound good? What questions do you have?
Can you put us where you want us to meet? Like 1, 2, 3.
1s, 2s, 3s, 4s.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Asking what you need.
Yeah.
Thank you. 14. So, okay, we're only a few minutes behind schedule, which is incredible because I planned for us to start the lecture at 9:25 and we didn't start till 9:40. Because that check-in, I should have put a time limit on it. And I did not.
Yeah, I was feeling ya. It's like,
Wow, I've never gone through that so fast. Well, and I'm so bad at time. Like sometimes, because I was with Extended last weekend and I was like, oh, this check-in has taken 40 minutes and it took 15 minutes. And so I'm just like, I have no idea. I have no idea what time is anymore. And I don't have my watch on me. So I'm like, they have my computer. I don't know what time it is. Yeah, so we're only 5 minutes behind schedule. So right there.
Oh,
Wait.
Beginning classes. Then when I started to take small regular classes, some said that you want to demonstrate. I was like, wait a minute, what are you going to do? Because I've done it, but I was used to
You just gave me a good idea, sorry.
used to the instructor demonstrate.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what am I paying for? I mean, I really had that perspective.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Everything.
To get you. Yeah.
hey, can you do me a favor?
Hang on a second. All right, what's up?
Sorry, I was just gonna ask if you could show me the board again.
I was like, I can't hear you out here. I'm so sorry you're not feeling well.
Oh, it's okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
Mhm. And I just want to follow up, because of time, we're gonna do a hard cutoff at 10:30, so just be prepared.
Yeah, look like this, you can go. So if I see somebody's score, I'm getting like, but I can but I was in touch. Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like,
So reading that. So, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have.
Yeah.
we have green.
I think specifically for Brendan, say.
I'm just like, I would say my name,
And like not. And they're represented.
That's a good way to think.
What do you guys feel about, I don't know. Like, yeah, like it's a very. Yeah, it's probably like what's staying. But yeah.
Especially with, no, we're not doing Shavasana. Especially with Shavasana, it still happens with Shavasana. When they say, hey, send me about 5 minutes, or I'll tell you when it's time.
And then I feel like. They were talking about, like, it's easy to like throw.
Yeah. So like reading, is there any benefits, and is it still like doing it straight? I don't know, I definitely feel something like there, but I don't know if like there's like that like forward.
Yes. So you're saying longer, like. I agree.
I don't know, Brad. I mean, I understand what you just kind of. Maybe.
And that's why like.
Well, these do it in your mind. They do like a. And then. That way, which that would be kind of hard to balance too, so I was trying to make it easier. Oh, wait a minute. Are you talking about your kinetics? Are you gonna be kind of like fun with the window? Because that would be more similar to something.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, like we're talking about the option. So for that, I don't know where the queuing had to be songs, or for the radio, I did that last month because he was.
I know that's when I started.
Well, then I was like, okay, sisters that are starting to quick distance, so like, this, it's like. So, yeah.
So, the safety, just well, since they decided for them or describing. Right. Like, and any shooting that, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing. So there's classes with parents and shut it but what if they're all together? How would I, like, yeah, not giving the judgment because.
Five more minutes. And if you don't get through everything, that's okay.
And then so, you know, maybe
So that it's opening. It's opening. Shoulders on the red.
It's kind of like this, and you can either have your knee bend, which one? Or you can straighten it out, and some people like to.
Straightforward.
Then maybe realize a little like my body.
Well, they're all beginners. You can have a, you know.
Or rack, so I think it's. But yeah, the mountain. Yeah. That's all stretchier.
Okay, yeah, that's.
I think just using those. I will just sit there and people figure forward just for fun. Okay. I also do not do the thing.
So Sunday, so the first time we do Cobra, but then I'll put out.
So.
Yeah.
Even with that Cobra, so you just say. And then again from.
Yeah, it almost sounds
Doing this whole series. And we stopped Taylor for bridge. And then we
Continue doing the other rounds like the first one. And write it all out, like really have friends. Like hello, always really.
I guess I'm her beginner class, she has.
I'm like,
Last minute.
I just love.
There's a lot of.
All right. Let's circle it back up. Okay, so who is our number one group over here? You have integration and Sunny? All right, so we're gonna spend probably about 22-ish minutes kind of going through and hearing all of you. So that means we've got about 5 minutes per group. So just know too that I will eat up some of your 5 minutes with some back and forth and some further ideas. So you may not get to share everything that you talked about. And if you didn't finish, that's totally okay. But we'll just see what we've got, right? So integration group, what did you brainstorm?
So we just talked about introductions and during the introduction, just kind of talking about what's going on.
So in the
oh.
name, in the greeting, maybe an overview of what you can expect from the class.
Is that in line with what you were saying?
It's okay. Good.
Yeah, and then we kind of went on from there.
About like not talking, the instructor won't be doing the poses with the class. Talk about fogging up. I'm just gonna go fast because I know you have limited time. But fogging up a mirror and actually doing what you showed us earlier, like showing them what that looks like, so that when they get into child's pose, they already have an idea of what that EJ breath looks like when they get there. Mention adjustments, and potentially like if you could get a volunteer like showing like this is what an adjustment would look like.
I love that.
And then they won't be so nervous about getting one, and then tell them that they'll have the option to opt out later. And then talk about how adjustments are not necessarily a criticism of their practice, but just that it could get them into a deeper pose for safety.
Great.
Using props and showing them what those kind of look like.
Oh, props, yes.
So like when, the part where we said you can always come back to this pose, right? To child's pose, like also opening the floor for, you can also take breaks, listen to your body, it's your practice, what you need, and feel free to just go back to child's pose and use props and all of this part.
Yeah.
Also tell them to drink lots of water because that gives them an excuse to take breaks.
Good. Yeah. I love that. Before we move on, yeah, so props. I always have every single person in every single beginner's class grab 2 blocks. That way, if and when we want to use it, because I mean, unless we somehow magically do a class with no low lunges, that's like where I always at least introduce them and be like, you can try it out, and if you hate it, you can ditch them, but otherwise they're already there. So I love, yeah, that you talked, yeah, you brought that in, good. All right, go ahead and keep going. Anything else?
I like what you said, Erica, before about let's find some gentle poses. Like instead of like jumping in something, it's like, okay, let's just start like stretching our body, see what feels good, even though that, you know, takes us away from the script, but it's like they're beginners. Like they need to kind of like sink in with their body. And maybe they never stretched before. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, having starting that connection with them and like finding gentle poses. Like maybe set them up for something.
Yeah, absolutely, great.
So yeah, I think that's what we have, right?
Okay.
Cutting stuff out. Oh, just cutting stuff out.
Series.
Yeah, the half series, cutting it out, and also like maybe just going down plank and doing like the knee plank. That way you get set up for the structure of everything, and then they're set up for like down dog as well. So
Good thinking.
not cut it out completely, but like get your footing right.
Mhm.
Just give them more options. I know we're not supposed to do this right now, but like forearm instead of if you can't get up on your hands, maybe forearm and knees, just to give them a little bit more, a couple more options.
Great.
There's one about down dog, he was about widening their feet just a little more. They can bend their knees a little more.
Good luck getting them to do that.
Maybe.
You'll be like, but you can really bend your knees. No, you can bend them.
So the feet wide, how about?
Yeah. No, they do need, yeah, no, I love that. Child's pose, are we holding them there for the full 2 minutes, do you think?
We're talking to them a lot.
You're talking to them a lot, you sure are.
Bit longer.
Well,
So I would consider shortening it. You're gonna have to say some of that stuff beforehand, is what
Yeah.
that means. But child's pose can be a lot for somebody who's new, same with downward facing dog. So they may need to be shortened a little bit, and you'll start to get the cue. They will all at the same moment start fidgeting and fidgeting themselves out of it, and you're like, okay, we're moving on now. What about setting an intention? Are you gonna go in and talk about Patanjali said in Yoga Sutra 1.2?
Like we'll just have the theme, right? The theme. And then go back. Well, what I did yesterday with my beginner husband, I just read something from the Yoga True book. And then when we did a Samasti Tihi, I brought it up and I was like, okay, what does Harinsa, like how can you apply that to your life and think about for your practice, what does peaceful or, you know, like means to you?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So, and it's like, that is something, right, straight from the Yoga Sutras, but it is in very accessible language. And so it doesn't mean that you can't use themes that you would be using in other classes. I don't like this saying, but I can't think of any other good way to say it quickly, but basically watering it down a little bit. Really understanding like the language that's around it. And I think that's great, Hannah. If you can loop it into somehow actually treating yourself with kindness during that class, especially for beginners, I just think that can be really efficient to be like, remember, we're being kind to ourselves today. So if you feel like you're going to die, you are allowed to take a break. Yeah. Awesome. Great job. I know we didn't get to everything.
Just last one.
Okay.
Sorry. So something that really helped me and I just discovered lately, it was the two fists. I discovered during this certification, this training, having like hip width distance is helpful. Putting your two fists in between. And I think that really like it's helping me now. Like I know what hip distance is.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. Anything like that, I think can be really like tangible things throughout class can really help people understand. Awesome.
I think too, when you see them struggle, like the students struggling, maybe just jump into a demo, right? Just
Absolutely.
so that they aren't all looking at each other going, we don't know what she's talking.
Absolutely, yeah, don't hesitate. And by the way, I apologize that I'm gonna have to cut you all off, but know that just because you don't get to share everything, that you still, it's the muscle of going through and looking at this stuff that's gonna be really valuable for you to take with you in the future. All right, group number 2, you had done vegan pork. Okay.
So, because Sun B is really long and it's got some more complex poses, especially in that Warrior 2 dance, we decided we were going to cut out one of the rounds, so just have focusing on 2 rounds. So 1 and 2 was what we were going to do.
Awesome.
And cut out round 3. We also talked about lengthening breaths in round 2 as well. So round 2 it's breath to movement. So just inhale, exhale, and going through it very quickly because it is so it's got a little bit more complex poses. We thought that we kind of want to just imitate round 1 and go through that a little bit more slowly, holding those poses a little bit longer.
I'm so glad you brought up both of those. It's rare that in my beginners classes that we do 3 rounds of something, so it's been great thinking. And yeah, the pace of your flow might look different. Like you can still tell them we're gonna do this one breath per movement, but that doesn't mean that it's gonna be the same pace that you do in a vinyasa class. Great. Sorry, keep going.
Okay. We also talked about cutting the half series, just because the length of it is still longer, and we're lengthening breaths. It also allows them to not be so focused with like the complexity of it, and just kind of going straight into down dog or taking a water break or things like that. Just cutting that part out.
And sorry, yeah, thank you. And like developing an appreciation for the pose, like giving the time for the pose to sink in and understand it instead of just flowing through a rhythm, just, take the pose, do longer breaths and let it sink in. So that was for a beginner, I think.
Yes. Yeah. So that was a lot more eloquent than for core, we talked about cutting out boat, because boat is a little bit more complex. I think all of us were talking about how we kind of struggled in that. So just cutting out boat completely, and then focusing, just keeping sit-ups like the Supta, Baddha, Konasana, and bike and bridge, and not so for the sit-ups we would not offer like the more intense modification, so like the lifting of the legs. Just keep them kind of focused on really like focusing on your core. And then for bike, we thought starting with the easier modification, so starting with your legs up, and then offering showing them that way, and then offering to make it a little bit more difficult, I think was the big thing. But yeah, just I think the flow with the core is already fine because they were spending a little bit of time on each of those. I don't think we had any problem with the length of that.
So great thinking. Cool. If we have time, I have another idea for core that we can circle back around to, but I think what you've done is super great. So awesome. Thanks, y'all. Good job. Okay. Group 3, let's see, you would have had resident and Utkatasana?
Yes.
Right.
So our group, the first thing that we decided
was for the length, we were gonna keep the length of the poses between the 3 and 5 breaths so that we could do some like talking through. For lunge, our first modification would be dropping to a knee. In lizard, one of the things that we talked about was like listening to our bodies, and noticing the difference between stretch and strain. So you should feel a stretch, but it shouldn't be a strain. And that's when we were talking about, like, if you needed to drop a knee, and adjust from there, but to just really listen to like the stretch and strain when you're pushing out your hips. We decided as a group that we would probably cut side plank. But if time allowed, we would offer it but encourage the down to a knee because at least from our perspective, like if you're in side plank for a long time, especially as a beginner, that's terrible. And it's really hard to tell students, like, if you're shaking, you can take a break because like that's where that pride and ego really sets in. So it was either skip or drop down to a knee. If we skipped, it would go from lizard lunge to plank right back into the upward and downward dog. Then for the Utkatasana series, we did mostly the same. We have a couple adjustments and substitutions. So for chair, we really wanted to focus the class on it being core and like spine centric. So like instead of having them focus on the depth of the seat in the chair, it was more about focusing their back and the length of the spine and core. And if they're doing well with this, then you can encourage them to like take a deeper seat. And then for Eagle, we decided that that was just a little too complex for a beginner class and that we would swap it out for Tree. And Tree would allow for the same kind of like balancing exercise, but was more gentle in that you can do different adjustments. So for more challenging, again, we wouldn't use those words. They would be higher up, and depending on their skill level, they would be further down or the kickstand. Then another swap was for gorilla pose. Instead of doing gorilla, we would do a forward fold with the encouraging or modifications of swinging back and forth into ragdoll or tucking your hands underneath your toes for a deeper stretch. So not like quite completely different from gorilla, but a little bit more simple. And then lastly, this was more of a time dependent / skill level thing for crow. If there was time as the instructor, we would show crow. And back to what Hannah had said before, we would show like the position on our backs on. So like, this is what it would look like. And at some point in your practice, you could bring it forward onto the mat if we have the time for that. If we don't have the time, we're going to substitute crow for the deep sumo squat.
Asana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that was everything. Did I miss anything?
The only thing was crescent. We were talking about like that's kind of a core pose that stuff builds off of. So for crescent, maybe holding it longer, having them come down to one knee, but like ensuring that their hips are correct and kind of taking our time and slowing down and breaking that one down for them a little bit more.
So
yeah.
Cool. I'm just moving over here so Caleb can hear me. Yeah, and you talked about something about yeah, like the length of these poses. So sometimes in beginners it makes sense that like let's not hold them as long, and definitely, but also because there's so much to break down, sometimes you have to. Sometimes people like non-beginners, whatever that means, come back to beginners classes for like a refreshment and alignment. And then they're like, that was so hard, you know, because sometimes it really does allow you to get into things more. Malasana, love the thought. Just you'll experiment because Malasana can be one that's like, what? And you're like, here's 4 blocks to sit on, and people are still like, what? Gorilla, crow, I hate to stereotype like this, but it is usually the beginners who are really muscular men who think like military groups, something like that. Those are the beginners that I often hear you want to pull out crow for, because the whole class, so much stretchy feelings, even though I would never use the word stretch with them. Then it can kind of feel like a failure of like, I can't do this, I can't do this, I can't do this. And then you give them a pose that they can muscle through and it's a win. But I love all the discussion we've had about like trying it on your back, trying there, but just know that that can be your demographic that you're like, I've been waiting for you. All right, way to go. Group 4, triangle and spine and hips.
Okay. So we decided our first modification would be to triangle, and we would kind of have them bring their hands to their hips instead of having so much focus on their arms, and having them bend only as far as they can while keeping their hips square. Because at least for me, especially at the beginning, and for my sister when I'm teaching her and she's not very, I was gonna say stable, but that makes her sound crazy. She's physically stable. She is unstable. If you keep your hips square, it feels more like you can, like it feels more grounded that way. And now that I'm saying it out loud, I'm moving and my hips move with me, and that makes me rethink that.
Yeah, so, and you will get more into this in both anatomy and your posture clinic. The hips will move, and that's absolutely great. But I understand the sentiment that you're coming from and really working it like from the foundation up. Yeah.
And then we were going to skip the first half series and have them come directly into three-legged down dog or down dog into three-legged down dog on the left side. And then
something else you can do there, because that's such a good thought. But by this point, your students are just like, we are still here. We're still moving. Okay, that's fine. So you could do, go through triangle on one side, inhale 5-pointed star, come back up. Warrior 2 to the back of the room, triangle, and just you cut out hold down dog. And then it also buys you a good 30-40 seconds too. So good thinking on that one. Good.
And then for horse or goddess pose, maybe having them not, again, like they were saying, like group 3 was saying the chair pose, not focusing how far you sit down, like maybe dropping an inch or 2 and focusing on wide-legged stance. Bring your elbows in, hold your little candles, like that kind of thing. And then keep the second half series. And then maybe instead of camel, doing bridge, because it's also a hip opener. And it reminds me very much of camel, except for you're on your back, so there's not as much pressure to be like, look how far back I can go, because you're laying down. And then maybe instead of pigeon, going into a figure 4 pose or a reclined figure 4 pose, because there's a lot of modifications there and a lot of options. Like you could just bring up one leg, you could put your leg over your other leg and keep the balanced leg bent, or straighten the balanced leg, and you could just bring it up, or you could interlace your fingers and pull back. So there's more options there. And again, if you do it reclined, you don't have to worry about their spine, because their spine is on the ground. What else? Did I miss anything? I feel like I missed something.
All right, see you later at work, everyone. I hope that this felt helpful, and I want to remind you and encourage you to keep I mean, you will just have to, right? Because you only did one little portion, to come back and do the rest of these portions, if and when you get to teach beginners and when you get to practice the Cambio sequence on beginners now. Sorry, Caleb, I'm just like, you seasick yet? You know, really being like, okay, so I said these cues and that didn't make any sense. So what do I do now? And what a great learning experience. What a really practical life experience that is. Let's see here. Oh, okay. Ben said something when we were kind of on break earlier and about being shocked that like the teacher isn't doing this with me. So especially on those days where you have like brand new people, I will encourage them to go into the middle of the back row so that they always have eyes on somebody else and they're not on one far side where like they have nobody to look at. I told a student that recently and I go in and he's in the front and center. And I'm just like, okay, so you didn't listen to my suggestion. And then he came out of class and was like, I understand now why you said that. I was like, yeah. And it's a balance, right? Between catering to where people are now and having it be a good confidence building experience, and potentially, depending on what type of beginners class this is, getting them geared up for a real life vinyasa class, and just maybe kind of understanding the language. And so maybe if you were on a break you're just looking to kill time and let them take a breather, you could talk about like, oh, so what we just did, that's called Sun A, and it's when we go up and down, up and down. And, you know, any things like that you want to sprinkle in to just help them feel more confident in the vocabulary. Speaking of vinyasa classes, low lunges. And those of you who've practiced on beginners, inhale, right leg lifts, exhale, step through to low lunge. No big deal, it's fine. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. And they like to make lots of noises. And hopefully some of those noises are laughs and not groans, because that step through can be nearly impossible for a lot of people. So oftentimes just something to kind of play around with. You can have them the first couple times, or maybe the whole class, depending on your demographic. Come into a forward fold, and instead of going from downward facing dog, have them step back into their low lunge. Inhale, warrior two. If they're doing, you know, they're vibing, you want to get them laughing more. Sometimes during core, what I will have them do is show them, okay, I shouldn't wear jeans today. So this whole class so far, we've stepped back into our low lunge. What you'll see typically in a vinyasa class is from downward facing dog, teacher will say, inhale, lift your leg, exhale, low lunge. And look at that, my foot did not get anywhere up close to my hands, did it? Which is fine, I can just stop it forward. But we can also practice it a little bit to start to build that muscle and that muscle memory. So what we're gonna do today for our core is starting downward facing dog, and I'm gonna say inhale, left leg lifts. Exhale, knee to nose, and look here how I'm really pressing my shoulders over my wrists. I have a big cat back to make space for my leg, and I'm even coming up on my back big toe. And we're gonna do this 3 times. This is really hard in socks. And then on the 3rd time, we're gonna step through, and look, my foot didn't make it all the way between my hands still, but it's closer, right? So your turn. That can be a way to kind of like be core work and also just kind of get them used to that idea of a low lunge if they're at that point where you think they might go off and try to join vinyasa classes, because some people will come to one beginner's class and go straight to vinyasa, or go to a restorative workshop and go straight to power. And then you will also have people who will come to beginners for 2 years in a row and you're like, go to another class. And then just as with any class, but beginners, you never know how it's gonna go. Sometimes I joke and I'm like, y'all, this turned into a power beginner class today. And I specifically say that to them as a confidence booster, that it's like, if this felt hard, this was technically beginners, but like it was up leveled. Like we really did a lot of stuff. And then sometimes it's also like, wow, well, we got through Sun B and real quick we did a tree pose and now we're in Shavasana. You never know how it's gonna go. So I always like to have a backup plan. If by 10:40, 10:45, you haven't done X, Y, and Z, it's not happening. Like, don't even try to start it. And so just kind of have those like time markers for yourself. So that you don't end up in a situation like exactly what I just said, where you're like, tree pose, get on the ground right now. And like you have a little bit of semblance of like a cool down. So
What if there's like only one person in your vinyasa flow class who is a beginner and like doesn't?
that's a whole discussion we could have. What if there's only one person in Vinyasa flow class who's a beginner? I mean, and anytime there's only one person in your class, I'm always just like, awesome. So like, how do you want this to look?
No, I mean like the rest of it.
Oh, the rest of the class
Has been to the class.
has been to the class.
You're familiar with the.
Yeah, so that's where I'm going to recommend, hey, this is a Vinyasa flow class. This is what it's going to look like today. So they have a heads up of what it is. This might make this can make certain personality types uncomfortable if you feel like you're a perfectionist who has to know everything and get everything right. But I want to tell you, it's okay to take breaks. I take breaks all the time. It's okay to not know anything. But I'd still love to have you join. So I would just recommend that you go in the middle in the back row. So that you have eyes on people at all times, because I won't be doing it with you. I'll try to offer modifications as we go, but just know that, yeah, if it feels fast paced, like that's totally okay. And like everybody started where you are at some point or something like that, to just be like, and try to watch out for him as best you can. And also it depends on how many, it's like if you have 4 other people in class versus if you have 20 other people in class, how much like time and mental capacity you're devoting to them. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people, brand new beginners in power classes before, and I was a student and the whole time I was worried about them, and they came out afterwards being like, that was crazy, but that was fun. Let's do it again. So it's like, okay, I would have been crying, but that's fine. Good for you. Yeah. I realize it's 11. However, you do have a 45-minute break before you start with Amy. So I'm okay to take your question if you want. Yeah.
I was just curious if like goal of beginner yoga, what's the word you want to touch on every say that if the class goes well, you're cutting stuff, but you want to try and touch on everything, you want to try and get some kind of like triangle, like all those different forms of stretching.
Yeah. Really great question. Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to be getting all of the different movements of the spine. If possible, a compressed twist. Oh, and so group for crescent. I love that you wanted to spend more time in crescent, and I think that's a great idea. However, if you're looking at your watch and you're like, holy cow, where did our time go? Revolved chair, so much quicker and easier to teach than revolved crescent. Like it can just be a blink of an eye in comparison. And you want to still give them, in addition to like the technical, like we want to get all the like different movements of the spine and a deep compressed twist and some hips and a balance. You also want to give them a little, like you want to give them a taste of a flow. Sometimes I'll do Sun A an extra round just so that like next time they have just a little bit more confidence in like what the heck a Sun A is. And I've done this before. And if it can start to be a little bit of a moving meditation for them, like they're just getting little tastes of everything, because you never know what's going to be the one thing that really sticks out to people and is the thing that encourages them to come back. So same with that, also still giving them like a nice juicy, like yummy, cool down spine hip surrender series. It's just like, oh, let's just like kind of feel good and things like that. So yeah, great question. You definitely, as best as possible, well-rounded-ish experience. Yeah, especially if it's like a one-off class of like, oh, you're teaching that group at the book club versus, I'm really lucky where I'm like, I have a weekly class and a lot of regulars. And so it's like, okay, we didn't get to that this week. Well, we're going to build on it next week. But it may not always be that way. Yeah.
For the teach out, and it's the normal cambio series, right? Like the sequence.
Yep.
Or is it gonna be with
since it's family and friends, I'm still like, but it's gonna be like beginners.
Yeah, so the family and friends is separate from the teach out. So family and friends, I mean, really you're gonna stick to the Cambio sequence. If there's an easy, hey, you can stay here in your back knee and crescent lunge or drop down to your back knee if you want. Stuff like that that you can slide in for them, they will appreciate it. Also they're gonna just, you know, if they know what they're signing up for, and at that point they may know the Cambio sequence better than you. But yeah, teach out, because you're gonna be teaching each other, so it'll just be, I mean, it doesn't mean you can't make modifications that you're learning along the way, but yeah, but so you won't be like doing big giant changes like this or anything. Okay. Well, thank you so much. We went 3 minutes over, so I really appreciate your time and flexibility. I never ever do that, but I'm like, since you have such a long break, yeah, have fun. Have a good rest of your day. It was so nice to see you all. I don't want to say goodbye. So everybody can say goodbye to Caleb. Get better, Caleb.
Hope you feel better.
Awesome. All right, my friends, will enjoy your break and I'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.